we're back.
Whoa!
Fingers. This will be fine. It's gonna work fine. Okay, so let's pick up the conversation about where we left off. 15 years later, you and your brother were talking about this game. This play. I pulled up. I know that I together with tell me about it. What were those things?
I think I got that. Your audio was a little bit tough to hear.
Oh,
there.
now it's mine.
Oh,
great.
Now I heard you. Now I heard you.
Okay. We're back.
It was, you said after 15 years, my brother and I came back.
Yep. And you put together this, you kind of pulled the elements of now in its more current iteration. What is different about this version that wasn't the same when it was first created?
Yeah, well, to be honest, a lot has been added. So when we were kids, we built the foundation on which we decided to really build this new world, our own world. We're not using Lord of the Rings as a placeholder. We're building our own creative world. But the mechanics are foundationally there. But along the way, we decided to add a whole bunch of cool stuff while we're doing it. And it just felt like we got so lucky. We felt like we would add, obviously there's been stuff that like we've gotten wrong, we've had to take out. But for the most part, some of these elements we've added has just made the game more fun. Like for example, for a war game, the fact that we have like a currency collection mechanic is really kind of unique. And that was something we decided to add in later. Like, hey, let's add in these cards that was inspired from we like Catan, and we like Catan Cities and Nights. It's a pretty basic game, but we really do enjoy it. Cities and Nights specifically is kind of more intense and really fun. We like that kind of, okay, there's an alternate strategy of getting cards. And so we wanted to include that in our game, and we decided, what if we added basic ability of coin roll? So it was an alternate strategy to get to the end goal of Last Man Standing. And so that was tested. And as you can imagine, another tons and tons of renovations and redos and adjustments and honings. But that was a big portion of our game that was added in this next adult rendition of it, was this mechanic of rolling for coin, collecting coin, using that coin to buy diplomacy cards, and also create characters, specifically some of the characters in that merchant faction who can use coin for other things than just diplomacy cards. But that whole mechanic, diplomacy cards, rolling for coin, that was a huge one that was added late into the game. That's just one of the many. I can keep on going if you want me into the other things, but that's the biggest one.
Well, why don't you take us back just a little bit, help us understand the overall concept of the game, and specifically hone in on the kinds of things that, like, if someone wasn't a Warhammer player or hadn't played tabletop war games, what might make this more attractive to that person, or at least a little different?
Yeah, and that's a great point, is that we like to say our game is a combination of Risk, which is a war game, but also Catan and Dungeons and Dragons. So if you can kind of imagine those three worlds coming together, it's not any of them specifically, but it has elements from all of them. So if you like Dungeons and Dragons, there's pieces of this game you like. If you like Risk, there's pieces of this game you like. If you like Catan, there's pieces of this game that you like. Am I coming through good?
Yeah, so far.
Oh, perfect. Yeah. Sweet. But yeah, so this game is a war game, and I'm not, like, I don't have the capacity, I don't think, to fully go into Warhammer hardcore, but I do like a good war game. I like that idea of strategizing, almost like chess, but so much more dynamic, because each character has their own strategies that you kind of play in. It's almost like a sandbox of war you get to do. Warhammer's a cool, awesome, legendary game, but it has such a high entrance, and there's a lot of other war games similar that maybe you're not painting the minis, but there's a high level of, like, entry. You can't just get it out, teach people, and after a game or two they get it, and you can play a game in an hour or 2 hours. And thankfully our game, you can have very long games. You kind of decide depending on your draft. So that's where it's coming from. We like the war game genre. We wanted to make it simple. We wanted to make it feel like a Catan type. Open it up, draft a decent amount of characters, have a game night, have a blast. And so that's where it came from. So our game really is basically, you start by drafting different characters from different factions. It's not a faction versus faction game. You can draft Barnburners and Noblemen, and then you play two characters at once, and you play a game against an opponent. You can have multiple characters in your backup. So you might have total, like a game where you each have around 10 character cards. It's all balanced out with skill level points, skill levels 1 through 3. So you'll each have the same amount of skill points, but there are characters that are better than others. But at the end of the day, your whole team is the same skill level points.
Right.
Then you play 2 characters out at once and strategically move around the map and attack. Use one like unique special abilities. Every card's a different play style, and there's different cards that are good against certain cards that are combined together. A hero type thing. So you basically use that whole world of back card specials, front card abilities to strategically become the last man standing. And while we were creating the game, we realized a multiplayer war game is completely different than a 1 versus 1. Because in a war game where you have multiple people, diplomacy is huge. You get that Catan, like people don't trade with him. He's about to win. Trade with me. And then people get embargoed. You work the table. Love that. That to me is some of the most enjoyable board game moments, is that social diplomacy that happens. And this game, when you're playing with like 3 or 4 people, or some people even play with 6 on this game. Some ambassadors have done it.
How many
but
can
you get play? That technically it's 2 to 4. We say that because a 6-player game or a 5-player game gets so convoluted. You have to be experienced enough. And if you're experienced enough, you kind of realize, wait a second, we can play with more people. So it's a whole nother thing with our game, but we built our game and we love when people take the foundations and they find their own ways. They have own house rules. They have own drafting rules. People are playing with 4 people. And then there's a dungeon master that just narrates the whole thing. And then you have people playing it's really, really cool to see what our play testers have been doing. And then people playing teams we're going to do teams and stagger them. And so it actually works out balance wise. And we're going to play with 6 people because there's technically 6 areas on the map you could start, but you can play with even more. So there's a lot. It's like a sandbox in that way. But obviously we have to set forth the foundations that are balanced and good. But yeah, basically, if you're playing a multiplayer game, you're working the table. You're trying to convince people that you're not the powerhouse and that your opponent is the powerhouse. And basically, your weak enemies are your friends until they become your strong enemies. And so you're playing the field, you're pulling out strategies from your characters, you're buying diplomacy cards and pulling them out at strategic moments. And the goal is to become the last man standing. In a multiplayer game, it's very self-regulating. Like, oh my gosh, that guy just converted this character. We're going to have to pummel him. So then 3.
And it begins.
It's extremely dynamic. It doesn't just like one round around the table. It could switch to several different people depending on how good the attacks go. So it's very self-regulated in that way. But we've also discovered, which has been awesome, is it can be an amazing 1 versus 1 game. If you're new, you're going to miss a lot of stuff. You're not going to see certain backcard specials people have, and you're going to be blindsided, and it's going to be hard. But the more skilled you get, like when me and my brother play 1 versus 1, we could even be playing with 10 cards. And if you think about that, it's like, okay, that's where balance will really come through. Because if it's a very swingy game, if you're in 10 cards each and it's just 1 versus 1, you can't rely on, diplomacy with other players to help gang up.
You're always going to be the enemy.
Yeah, exactly. So there's only so much you can do. You have to rely entirely on strategy. And so we've found so many times, even in big games, this game will still come down to 1 versus 1, or maybe 2 cards versus 1 card. And it was kind of something we didn't even necessarily think about, but the way we built the game was really balanced. And obviously it's not perfect, but it's bizarre how often a 1 versus 1 game that has a lot of people in the backup, so a lot of room for variability, will come down to literally 1 roll versus 1 roll, when all it is strategy.
Well, that's a sign of a good game and balanced. Is it that skill points that each player is allotted that keeps that in balance?
Exactly. So we have characters that are skill levels 1. You might have more 1 skill. Really, most part, we find it really well balanced, especially and mainly when you're skilled enough to kind of know the field. You kind of know what a character.
Hang on, Jedediah. I'm going to put a pin in this. Ladies and gentlemen, here's what we're going to do. We're still being cursed by the curse of this channel. So what we're going to do is we're going to hit a pause here. Jedediah and I are going to keep hanging. You can't see yet. You got to tune back in on YouTube or listen to podcast when it's available this week. So watch for our socials when we'll announce that it'll be live. Because I need to hear more about this game, and he and his brother put in so much work. And so it's only right, and they've earned the chance to get to geek out about it. So hang on, Jedediah. Don't go anywhere. I'm going to pause it live, and we'll keep hanging out and record it off stream. Sound good?
Sounds great.
Have fun, guys. Have a good night. We'll see you soon. Until next time, I'm Bozer.
And I'm Jedediah.
And you just keep geeking out.
Geeking out.
That was proof that I told him about it before T. That my co-host wasn't able to join us, but he's in the chat, and he gives me shit about not giving the guests a heads up all the time. I did it. Okay, see you soon. Bye.